This is a training session regarding the entry and processing of subcontract invoices. These are invoices that have been received from a subcontractor who is performing work on the site, not simply selling materials to us for use on the job. Subcontracts are set up through the job costing module and are discussed in a separate training session. In this session, we will discuss how we enter subcontract invoices and charge them to budgeted subcontract codes. First, we select the Invoices option from the Accounts Payable menu. For a description of the batches shown on the left-hand side of the screen, please refer to the training session on Entering Accounts Payable Trade Invoices. In this session, we will talk about entering subcontract invoices. These can be entered into the same batch as trade invoices or into a batch of their own. When we click on the Add button to enter a new invoice, we select Subcontract Invoice and the following screen comes into view. This screen is somewhat different from the trade invoice entry screen. Instead of entering a vendor number at the top, we enter a job number and a valid subcontract cost code. The system then looks up and displays for us in the bottom portion of the screen all the contract information on this particular cost code. For example, the original contract, the current contract amount, and total of all the change orders, as well as the total amount of any prior billings received from this subcontractor. We can now enter an invoice number and, if applicable, a purchase order number. We can indicate whether this particular invoice has already been paid by a handwritten check or a credit card. If we select Paid by Hand Check or Paid by Credit Card, the system will change the entry fields on the right-hand side of the screen to indicate a paid date, a check number or card name, and the checking account or credit card account number. If we select Open, we are asked only for an invoice date and a due date for this invoice. We're going to enter this particular invoice as an open invoice. Therefore, it will have a due date. The system will calculate the due date by looking into the vendor record, retrieving the vendor's due terms, and applying those terms to the invoice date. This checkbox will cause the invoice to be posted with a hold payment flag. If this box is checked, you can enter the reason for the hold, and the posted invoice will not be available for payment selection until the hold is lifted. We can enter a description of this invoice, which we will call Progress Billing Number 2. The invoice now expects us to indicate how much has been billed by the subcontractor that we are entering into the system. We have a number of different options as to where to put this dollar amount. We can enter it into the Billed to Date field. If we enter it into this field, the system will subtract off any prior billings and give us a new current invoice amount. We could enter a figure into the Billed to Date % field. The system will calculate once again by subtracting off any prior billings and giving us a current invoice amount. Or we can enter a dollar amount into the This Invoice Amount or This Invoice % field, and the other fields will be calculated appropriately. We can also specify a retention amount. Retention is the industry standard practice of withholding a certain dollar amount from the subcontract billing pending completion of his portion of the job. A standard percentage would be a 10% retention to be held back and not paid to the subcontractor until he finishes his project. The system allows us to withhold back charges in conjunction with entering this invoice. For example, we may choose for any reason to withhold a certain amount of money from the subcontractor, and the system allows us to indicate whether this is a job back charge or a GL account back charge. In other words, the amount of money we will not be paying to this vendor, we will charge off to some other account or cost code. We indicate at the bottom of the screen the amount of the back charge. We also have an insurance surcharge which may be withheld if the subcontractor does not carry workers' comp insurance or general liability insurance, or if he does carry the insurance but his certificate has expired. We have the option of not paying the subcontractor at all, or of deducting from the amount that he has billed us an amount sufficient to pay the workers' comp premium for the subcontractor's workers. If we choose to do it this way, we put the percentage rate here, and the dollar amount will be calculated as a percentage of the billing. We can also enter a discount amount. Most subcontractors do not offer a discount for prompt payment, but some do. Therefore, we have the ability to enter in the discount that can be taken and the date the discount expires. In the next tab, we see a quick summary of what insurance is carried by the subcontractor. It shows the insurance with its expiration date. Also, the amount we may want to surcharge this person if the insurance is expired. It also shows other insurances with their accompanying expiration dates and surcharge percentages. Also, any other insurances or licenses we require the subcontractor to carry will be listed in the box below. The information shown in this tab is strictly informational. On this tab, we are able to attach supporting documents to this invoice. These may include photographs of the work performed or perhaps a scanned copy of the subcontractor's billing. On this tab, we can enter notes. Once we have filled the appropriate fields, we click on the OK button. Our invoice is saved and will be displayed in the Browse box on the right-hand side of the screen. We can now tag our batch and use the buttons at the bottom of the screen to process our invoice. The first button is used to change the dates of the invoices in the tagged batches. Usually this is used for repeating batches, and most subcontract invoices are not placed in a repeating batch. This function is described in more detail in the Trade Invoice training session. The second button is the proof listing. As we click on this button, we have the ability to set limits and print a proof listing of all the invoices in the batch. The third button is the Post Tagged Batches button. When we press this button, the system will ask us the fiscal period to which the invoices will be posted. The default is the current fiscal period, but we may choose any other open fiscal period. We then click on the Proceed with Posting button, and the system will post our subcontract invoice, print our posting reports, and give us one last chance to view our reports and make sure our invoices have been properly posted. If they have been, we can click the Finish button. If they have not, we can press the Undo button, and the system will return to the state it was in prior to the posting of our invoices. This concludes this training session on entering and processing subcontract invoices.